Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
Oh, that didn't work the way I wanted. Hey guys, today's date, December 14th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got here, we do take the events of the week, try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, I do try to remind you that even though we are a news podcast, we do try to watch our language as well as let you know that some words will fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. New digs, new locations, so bear with us as we try to get all this well and done, but we are definitely not going to leave you without news. Never thought I'd say it that way. News. Yes, so what do we have on the week? Well, we first have to start with this one. If you guys haven't noticed, the midterms have passed. So, when all said and done, we do know that the GOP does control the House, while the Democrats control the Senate, and Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris will finish the last 2 years of the first term. That being said, there is still unrest on both sides. It seems that way for the House Majority Speaker, which everybody assumed that Mitch McConnell may get it, but unfortunately, Kevin McCarthy is still wanting to throw his hat in the ring, saying that Mitch McConnell is not going to be as conservative as one hopes. At this point, Kevin McCarthy also sat there and said that quote unquote about Mitch McConnell, Republicans are wrong if they want to cut a year-end spending deal with Democrats, as he told Fox News's three-headed demon, Lord Ingram, saying they should punt the issue until 2023. Why? Because the Republicans take over on 2023. And of course, she does ask, does that include McConnell? McCarthy says yes. Why would you want to work on anything why would you work on anything if we have the gavel inside Congress? Now, I know a lot of people are thinking at this point, yes, that it still could be a deadlock Congress, considering the fact that, yes, the GOP has already sat there and said they are not introducing any bills. They are going to really instigate a lot of worthless investigations. While the Democrats are going to try to move forward, especially with a new House Minority Speaker, as well as Chuck Schumer still be the Majority Speaker. But it is amazing to me that I never thought I would say that the Republicans are having infighting over who wants to lead the caucus. I mean, don't get me wrong about Kevin McCarthy. He is like Lindsey Graham in so many ways. He's going to butt kiss his way to the next person just to make sure he's safe. At the same time, I'm not surprised about Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is a lifetime politician. Turtle Mitch, Moscow Mitch, however you call him, because I'm still trying to figure out how his wife was under allegations, but that is very, very quiet right about now. But the fact of the matter is, for the first time in a long time, there's a little bit of infighting among the Republicans, and it's going to be hard to say exactly what they're for because they've already told you guys what they're for going into this midterms, and they're expecting the same come the next presidential election, which is not too far off from now. So definitely stay tuned about that. However, the Republicans aren't the only ones having a little bit of infighting. Needless to say, because not only are the Republicans targeting Joe Manchin's state of West Virginia in the next elections, just because he is a Democratic-esque person in a Republican red state, his counterpart, Kristen Sinema, has decided that she no longer wants to be a part of the Democratic Party. It's amazing after she's actually won her re-election.
Brought a bombshell for Senate Democrats.
I've registered as an Arizona independent.
Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, a moderate who wielded enormous power in the evenly split Senate of the last 2 years, telling CNN's Jake Tapper she has left the Democratic Party and is now an independent.
I just not worried about folks who may not like this approach. What I am worried about is continuing to do what's right for my state.
Following her announcement, Sinema talked with reporters at an Arizona food bank on Friday, saying she's not focused on re-election, but on her constituents. Her term is up in 2024.
Today's announcement is a reflection of my values, and I think the values of most Arizonans who are tired of a political system that pulls people to the edges and really doesn't reflect who we are as a people.
Sinema gave the White House and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer advance warning of her announcement. On Friday, Schumer said in a statement, Sinema will keep her committee assignments, adding, quote, "I believe she's a good and effective senator, and am looking forward to a productive session in the new Democratic majority Senate. We will maintain our new majority on committees, exercise our subpoena power, and be able to clear nominees without discharge votes." Fellow Senate Democrats and the White House echoing that sentiment, saying Sinema's decision won't change much.
If she were to say, no, I'm going over Republican, I am not voting with them anymore, that's a whole different thing. That is nowhere near what she said. And she has tended not to go to the caucus meeting, something she said, so I'm not like telling something out of school, except for rare moments where she's advocating for something she cares about. And that's not going to change either.
Practically, Democrats will maintain their Senate majority with 3 independents now. Plenty of Democrats have sharply criticized the move, though. Arizona Representative Ruben Gallego, a potential challenger to Sinema should she run again in 2024, blasted the move in a statement saying, quote, "Unfortunately, Senator Sinema is once again putting her own interests ahead of getting things done for Arizonans."
And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. Especially at, sounds like, thanks, Kelly. Sounds like you got it on false pretenses. Yeah, I'd say so. Because she ran. It's amazing how she sat there and said she ran as a Democrat. Keep in mind, the midterms were just 2 weeks ago, folks. A little over 2 weeks ago. The midterms were just 2-3 weeks ago. At the same time, Kyrsten Sinema didn't announce anything about running independent until she was confirmed as senator. When she was confirmed as senator again, hey guys, I'm independent. I will no longer be a part of the Democratic stronghold we have on ourselves. Now, she could sit there, and Chuck Schumer could sit there, and Amy Klobuchar could sit there and say that this is not going to affect anything. Yeah, it should. Because I don't know why. I still don't know why people. I used to say this, and I still say this about people that vote conservatives. But do Democrats think that we have a memory problem about Kyrsten Sinema? Kyrsten Sinema, the same woman who took America's Build Back Better plan, and instead of being a senator, goes to her chamber of commerce in her state of Arizona and asks, is this a good idea? The same Sinema who voted against us getting additional stimulus money last year. The same Kyrsten Sinema that voted along with Joe Manchin and killed just about every progressive bill that was passed by the Democrats when they held, or I should say as they're currently holding, because nothing changes till next year, but as Democrats hold a slim majority in Congress, her along with Manchin killed about just every progressive bill that went in. But you know what Kyrsten Sinema did fight for? You know the one thing that she stood on no matter what? She stood on corporate tax rates, that they should not be increased. That's what she stood on. That alone should tell you everything that Kyrsten Sinema is for. Even more so that she now, in the face of adversity, you know what Kyrsten Sinema is? Kyrsten Sinema is Sarah Palin if Sarah Palin was Democratic. Yeah, I'll say it. Kyrsten Sinema is like Sarah Palin if Sarah Palin went Democratic. Because she thinks that she is this maverick, this person that's not within the box, that's going to fight for the interest of her constituents when she ran as a Democrat. Now, imagine if she ran as an independent at the time of this midterm election. I think she would be singing a very different tune. Which, again, how in the world does one sit there and say, oh, well, I'm running independent? For what other reason, aside for you to sit there and say that you want to be associated with the party, but you can't say you want to go Republican, because that's what moderate Democrats are. Moderate Democrats are Republican light. They are just enough. They are barely just enough left not to be conservative, but they are conservative in spirit. Which, again, not surprising about Kristen Sinema, because now the Democrats are going to have a harder time. Keep in mind, it's already going to be a hard time come next year when the 118th Congress gets sworn in, and you have a House of Representatives that's controlled by the GOP who will launch useless investigation for no other reason except to be dismissive. They will not introduce any bills. They will not introduce any plans to get America's economy going. They will not help with unions because most Republicans are pro-union. They will not help with raising wages across the U.S. because, let's be honest, they are in the pockets of corporate interest. If anything, Republicans are going to be just as disruptive and as dismissive as we know them to be. And if anybody's a historian, I say this all the time, under Republican administration, the economy has tanked, corporations have done well, and people's citizens have suffered. The only time the economy has ever moved forward was under Democratic leadership. Prove me wrong. I dare you. But again, we shouldn't be surprised because that's what we're going to run into come the next couple of terms, which is why I keep saying the whole entire time, if I was running for office, they would hate me because I would put in terms for running for being a senator or representative at the same way of running as a president. You can run 2 consecutive terms and you got to stick one out for a while. But let's be honest, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story because we have given nurses, educators, 911 responders during this pandemic, because this pandemic's not over. It's just not being talked about that much anymore. But we are still in the middle of a pandemic. But at the beginning of this pandemic, the height of this pandemic, we were giving nurses, doctors, hospital professionals, and still giving them their props and flowers, because not only did they have to work excruciating hours, not only did they get emotionally drained from handling COVID and coronavirus patients, not only were they, taken away from their homes, had to endure several procedures and masks, and not wondering when did this day you need to wear a mask, not wear a mask. We've given those nurses all the flowers, and we still should. However, this story out of Atlanta makes you wonder why some people are worried about hospital professionals if they can do stuff like this on TikTok.
4 nurses have been fired from an Atlanta hospital for posting a TikTok video talking about patients. The video was filmed as part of a challenge on TikTok about icks or dislikes of their job. Let's take a look at a short clip.
My ick is when you come in for your induction talking about, can I take a shower and eat? What? My ick is when you ask me how much the baby weighs and it's still in your hands. Dad comes outside and asks for a paternity test right outside the room door.
The original video, now deleted from the app, has been viewed millions of times and prompted thousands of angry comments. The nurses worked at Emory University Hospital, Midtown. Emory Healthcare issued a statement on the incident saying, in part, "We are aware of the TikTok video that included disrespectful and unprofessional comments about maternity patients and have taken appropriate actions with the former employees responsible for the video." Here to unpack all of this is Democratic strategist and political commentator.
And we're just going to leave that there because I don't know what a Democratic strategist is going to say about this. But yes, several nurses at an Atlanta hospital decided to go on TikTok and air their grievances, if you will. Air their grievances, especially about working in a L&D or labor and delivery unit, a place that me and my fiance will find ourselves in next year. But I get it. Okay, we've all worked jobs to where we want to complain. I am no different, okay? I am no different about half the things that I put out there, but, and I say but, just like free speech, guys, you have to accept the consequences of what you say or do. Like, for the simple fact of the matter is, I have talked many a times as a guy who worked in IT about dealing with the less than savory individuals that are handling equipment that I'm supposed to support. Do I make those stories funny? Yes. But if someone were to look at that story and, kind of put two and two together and say, hey, he's talking about me and I don't feel that way, then I have to take the consequences of it. And I understand that we do all these things for stress, to get out of our system. I understand all of it. The problem is that we are now in a ultra sensitive echo chamber world, society, if you will, that as nurses who go on TikTok, which I wish they would, it's one thing to make light or, say other things that people may not know. It's one thing to do that. But at the same time, it's when you literally are in garb, you can see where you work. At the same time, you pretty much sat there. It's like you pretty much sat there and told them where you work, which again is things that if I was going to do something like that, I probably wouldn't put anything work related on me so no one could track me down. In this day and age, they can do that. But with that being said, it looks like they are speaking from an office capacity, and the fact that it's like, you know what I'm annoyed with? I'm annoyed with when the mom has the baby and the baby's in her hands and they ask how much does it weigh? And that is insulting. Or if the father asks for a paternity test as soon as the child is born. Messed up? Absolutely. But you're a professional. You should be able to handle that better. And I can keep going down the list of things that they talked about, but I understand about airing grievances. Airing grievances is in a therapeutic way helpful and releasing. But the problem is you can't do it from a work setting and expect nothing to happen. As you probably heard in that statement right there, that they said former employees, so more than likely they've been let go. But at the same time, are they going to be without a job? No. In this day and age, where hospitals are still hiring traveling nurses, where traveling nurses are making buku bucks to help understaffed hospitals, you think for 1 second that those 4 ladies, especially working in labor and delivery, are going to be without a job for long? Shh. No. They'll be somewhere else. They have to be. Because that's the labor shortage. Even though everybody says they're hiring, but let's be honest, if you're a nurse or studying to be a nurse or being or about to be certified to be a nurse, 9 times out of 10, these hospitals cannot afford to lose any more staff. And I guess that hospital, just because of the backlash, decided that it's just not worth trying to keep these people. But best believe those nurses are working somewhere else. But let that be a lesson, guys, in where you vent. If you're gonna vent, take all your stuff off where they don't know where you are. That's all I'm saying. Be smart about where you vent, because if you vent from a work setting, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to find it. Just pointing that out. But moving right along, I did want to cover this story as well, guys, for the simple fact of the matter that apparently we avoided in principle another government shutdown. Yes, I know.
Breaking news now this hour out of Washington. A top Republican negotiator has confirmed to NBC News that a deal has been reached to help prevent a government shutdown. The current government funding deadline was this Friday, but the House already voted to push that to December 23rd with a short-term resolution. So this news tonight, on top of the extended deadline, significantly reduces the odds of a government shutdown. Tune in to NBC News now.
All right. So they agreed in principle. What does that mean? It basically means that the majority of the deal has been ironed out, and that and when I say the deal's been ironed out, it literally means that it's only being set up for another decision. See, this is what the problem with government shutdowns is, because for a functional government to have a money problem, because they always have to set up a budget, their fiscal budget. If the fiscal budget is set up for the fiscal year, as they get to the end of that year, they have to set up the next budget in order to keep Congress, as far as the U.S. government, running. If they don't have anything set up, it goes to a government shutdown where, it doesn't just affect the government, armed forces, central systems that that depend on services like child food stamps, WIC, childcare, things of that nature, that all gets shut down because there's no funding going anywhere. And Republicans, Democrats always play this game of chicken. It never ceases to amaze me. But usually 9 times out of 10, they kick it down the road. They'll do a short-term deal to keep government running for another 3 to 4, maybe even 5 to 6 months. Beyond that, we're right back where we started again. The government's about to be on a full shutdown. And again, these shutdowns cause a lot of problems. Number one, Medicare Medicaid payments get on hold. Social Security payments can be put on hold. Disability checks can be put on hold. And these are things that affect the very same Americans that these politicians ask us to vote for them on. Now, that's the reason why I say it's very important not only to pay attention to that, but to pay attention to what's in the bill. Because what it always comes down to is this. Republicans will say Democrats are spending way too much and are worried that their great somehow great grandchildren will be stuck with America's debt bill, not understanding that same line has been said over and over and over again. It's almost like a Republican mantra. Whereas the Democrats want to be progressive, but they can't seem to get out of their own way between the moderates and progressives, because they don't push bills for or don't push the items for enough that could really restart our economy. At the same time, actually going to put us in a much better place than where we are now. Hence the reason why the government shut down, that we somehow avoided on principle. However, it is a kick the can down the road situation. So be ready to go through this next 3 or 4 months. But speaking of things, President Biden did speak on a couple of things. The first thing he did speak on was that, congratulations, I think he thinks he beat inflation. Yes, he thinks he beat inflation.
Now inflation is coming down as well. Prices of things like televisions and toys are going down. It's good news for the holiday season. Used car prices fell for the 5th month in a row. New car prices didn't go up this month. That savings is critical to so many families. It gives them just a little bit of breathing room for the holiday season. And all of this means that for the last several months, wages have gone up more than prices have gone up. Wages have gone up more than prices have gone up. I want to be clear. It's going to take time to get inflation back to normal levels as we make the transition to a more stable and steady growth. But we could see setbacks along the way as well. We shouldn't take anything for granted. But what is clear is that my economic plan is working and we're just getting started. My goal is simple: get price increases under control without choking off economic growth. Bring inflation down while keeping our labor market resilient. Build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, an economy with good jobs, good wages, and for the long run, not a boom or bust economy. Because of my plan, we're beginning to see historic investments that are leading companies to invest hundreds of billions of dollars. Let me say it again, hundreds of billions of dollars to build semiconductor factories and other advanced manufacturing right here in America. It's going to create tens of thousands of good paying jobs in the years ahead. And by the way, a significant number of these jobs are expected to be jobs that pay an average of $125,000 a year. Many don't require a college degree, so things are looking up.
Are they, Joe? Are they? Look, I'm not one to knock what he's saying because it sounded like a whole presidential campaign speech that he's doing for his reelection. But we do kind of need to sort out the things that he's kind of glossing over. Inflation is going down, not as fast as he hoped it would, because it's still freaking high. And the feds are about to now think about increasing interest rates for the 7th time this year. So he's kind of right. I love how you said wages have increased. For who, Joe? Where did wages increase? I mean, the last time I checked, the minimum wage was still $7.29. Hasn't changed since 2009. Most jobs are still paying anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour. I can tell you from the state of Tennessee, the average median income in Tennessee right now is anywhere between $30,000 to from anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year. That's 45% of one red state. Less than 20% are making above 70,000, and the number decreases as the wage increases go up. So yeah, Joe, I gotta ask this question of where you see wages going up, because they haven't. Even when you were pressed about increasing the minimum wage, which I would think by now, considering that you still have a slim majority in Congress, you should probably be pushing that while you still have a slim majority in Congress, which for a lot of progressives, which did vote for you, would hope that you would take on the fact of, yes, we are going to increase the minimum wage. Because let's be honest, if we do put it along the lines of the production level of the minimum wage right now, you would be looking at anywhere between $24 to $26 an hour. Oh, but we can't pay that. Yet businesses are having record profits. The same businesses right now that are saying that nobody wants to work. But almost every corporation has had record profits. We're not even talking the oil companies. They've had record profits. But every other company out there, record profits. It's Christmas in July for them. So I am really trying not to be the Grinch to Biden right now, because he wants to battle inflation. He really truly does. But the problem with inflation is,
if we can, the president
have to acknowledge what's going on with it. That, the bills that he put in that were progressive didn't get past Manchin and Sinema, which would have had greater impacts. Yes, he is wanting to get things done in the country, like we should have had semiconductor factories. Yes, that's a great idea, but we won't get its impact for at least 4 to 5 years, when something needs to be of more of an immediate impact. Or the fact that a lot of states, California, want to phase out gasoline burning engines and go straight electrical again, but that won't be phased out till 2030 or 2035 for most states. The problem that you're going to run into is that his plan is, in the long run, may help out America, but for a lot of us in the now who are, for a lot of Americans, they are 1 or 2 paychecks away from poverty, 1 or 2 paychecks from being on the street, because everything has gone up but their paycheck. So I don't get how Biden can take this victory lap right now when a majority of Americans are not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel that he supposedly can see. But I digress. However, that's not the only thing that Biden did actually want to talk about. I will say this. I am surprised that Democrats and Republicans were able to codify something before a conservative majority turned Supreme Court shot this down too.
United States in that historic signing you saw right there at the table, signing that landmark bipartisan bill protecting same-sex and interracial marriages. The historic Respect for Marriage Act requires the federal government to recognize those marriages. And now you heard the president just moments ago saying this law is honoring and respecting love, marriage, and everyone's right to marry. Straight to our Terry Moran outside the Supreme Court, something you have been following for a long time, Terry, even more so after Roe versus Wade was overturned. And we heard those hints from Clarence Thomas that marriage equality could be the next in line, that it could be bad news for the LGBTQ community. Today, it's a new day.
It is a new day, Kira, no question, because since that case, the Obergefell case, which the Supreme Court established and discovered a right to marry the person you love, regardless of whether you're gay or straight, there have been millions and millions of people married. All these families across the United States, all of us know people who are married under the Supreme Court's recognition of a right to marry. If the Supreme Court ever takes that right away, as we now know they can after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, what this law does is protect those families and marriages. It requires the federal government and all of the states to legally recognize and honor marriages that were performed during the time that gay marriage would have been legal if the Supreme Court overturns it, and marriages that would be performed in states which would have laws that recognize gay marriage. It does not require all the states to have such laws in the event that gay marriage is overturned by the Supreme Court. But if you're married in one place, you'd be married everywhere. In other words, if you're married in California, every state would have to recognize the legality of that marriage. And finally, it does provide, this law, protections for religious groups that have moral objections to gay marriage. They would not be required under law to provide goods or services in those instances, or their churches or places of worship, and they wouldn't lose tax-exempt status. But really what this does is protect all of those couples and all of those families in our country that are married and are our neighbors and people, our colleagues and all the rest, to protect them from the uncertainty and the chaos that would result if the Supreme Court ever overturns the gay marriage ruling and plunges them into legal limbo. Right now, because of this law that President Biden just signed, their marriages will remain intact, respected, honored, and legal no matter what.
Showing that no American should have to worry about losing the freedom to marry the person they love. Terry Moran there outside the Supreme.
Okay, so there's one thing that I just got to point out in all this, that yes, is it a win that Democrats and Republicans were able to codify interracial and non-heterosexual marriages? Yeah, cool, great. Something that was already done in the Loving case many moons ago. And again, when you have individuals who, for the lack of better words, don't like something because it doesn't fit them or because a very old book told them to, they decide that they want to lose their freaking minds. So I get the fact of the Respect for Marriage Act into law. Let's not forget the Defense of Marriage Act, which was supposed to be the act that defines marriage as the Marriage Defense Act, which is by far the dumbest act ever put into law. But remember that act where it said marriage is defined as a man and woman being united? Yeah. Who put that in? GOP conservatives and ultra-religious nuts. You know who they had to appease to get this mess through? Conservatives and ultra-religious nuts. Because they had to put in there that religious groups cannot be held accountable for refusing service. Why does that sound familiar? Certain state in Kentucky? Certain county clerk who refused to give same-sex couple marriage licenses because it's against her religion? Sound familiar? Kim Porter? That's the point I'm making out of this, guys, is the fact that they had to put that in to get Republicans to jump on this train in order for this bill to be passed in the House and the Senate to finally get to President Biden's desk for him to sign. And it amazes me so that, for the simple fact of the matter, that we're still, it's 2022. It's 2022 and we're still talking about it. It's 2022 and we're still talking about the fact that marriages that are non-traditional. What I mean by non-traditional is by being a man and woman being married. But if you're a man and a man, woman and woman, however you choose to identify yourself and by your pronouns, love who you love and you should get married to them with no problem. That should have been the law of the land. But as we saw with Roe versus Wade being overturned, and I sat there and said this a long time ago, you don't think this conservative leading Supreme Court is not looking at other cases? Trust me, they are. I'm still waiting for the Brown versus Board of Education because I'm pretty sure that's coming up next. But this is a winning step. It is. It is a winning step that it is going to be something on the books to codify Respect for Marriage Act. But at the same time, think about the other things that got to be put in, because I'm sorry, I don't even know why the religious groups portion had to be put in. That's the one thing I'll never understand, because most same-sex couples don't go to churches. Most non-traditional couples won't go to a religious house to get married because they already know that most religious houses have this thing about marrying people who are not men and women. Man and woman, they will not marry them, or they won't see them, won't do marriage counseling. Because yes, marriage counseling is required in states. Don't ask me why. It is by far the dumbest thing they can do, and it's basically based on religious backgrounds. Yes, I know. But most states, mostly southern states, won't even see these people. And that alone should tell you something about the way America is viewing this. This is why I keep saying that the GOP is a dangerous group right now, because they're led by ultra-religious ammo wingnuts. And now they've gotten a piece of their law in there. And don't think for 1 second that a certain religious county clerk or a certain religious priest or an ultra-religious individual is going to sit there and say, well, I don't want to marry these people or give them this because of my religious beliefs. Here's my thing. If your religion keeps two people from being happy together, then don't blame the religion. You're just a dick. Yes, I said it. That being alongside, since I did talk about the Supreme Court, they are actually bringing up a thing. They are actually looking into 2 cases for Biden's student debt forgiveness program. They will actually hear 2 cases, and because it's a conservative-leaning Supreme Court, yeah, I'm concerned. Really concerned.
To hear a second case to potentially revive President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan.
That case will be heard in February alongside another one of the justices had already agreed to hear. So
to dig into this, let's bring in former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid. She's also a law professor at the University of Michigan Law School and an NBC News legal contributor. Barbara, good to see you. So first, just explain to us this second case. I know it involves 2 holders of federal student debt. There are a lot of us, though. So what exactly are they arguing, though, in this case, and how is this case different from the others?
this case is coming out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And unlike the first one, which has some substantive arguments, this is a procedural argument. It's brought by a conservative group called the Job Creators Network. And it says that the Biden administration failed to follow the Administrative Procedures Act, the notice and comment period that normally precedes one of these kinds of programs. It gives people the opportunity to lodge any complaints. And in this case, as you mentioned, there are two people who obtained loans who wanted to make comments, one of whom had a private source for a loan who would wanted to say, why not me? And another who would say, I took one of these loans, but why is it limited to $10,000 or $20,000? And so that procedural dispute is what is at issue in this new case.
Well, Barbara, we know that the Biden plan allows eligible borrowers to cancel up to $20,000 in federal loan debt, but students owe an average of nearly $38,000 in federal loans. So those who are challenging the debt relief plan essentially have to show legal standing to sue in the first place. So a couple of questions. One, how do they show that? And two, what are the chances of a successful argument here?
Well, you're absolutely right about that. And so in this instance, we do have taxpayers who say they would have lodged a statement procedurally under the Administrative Procedures Act. So they may have some a good argument there. The other case, the one that came out of the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals that had the substantive argument, came from states who say that the president is engaging in a power grab, is violating states' rights and the separation of powers that are described in the Constitution. And so I think on standing, they may have an argument there. It isn't simply a taxpayer who says, you're taking money out of my pocket. They are individuals and states who will stand to lose as a result of this. And I also am concerned that this court in particular has shown a willingness to undercut what it considers the administrative state, non-congressional use of power to achieve things like this loan forgiveness program. So I do worry that the current makeup of the court could be eager to strike this program down.
And Barbara, I just heard you refer to the impact of all this on the individual. It strikes me that the plan being tied up in court leaves millions of borrowers in limbo. We know the president has again paused student loan payments until at least June. So how long can the president keep extending this moratorium, and what does it mean for borrowers?
It is a problem. You know, if you are thinking about taking advantage of this relief, every day that there is a delay means you cannot plan your life accordingly. So President Biden has said he's going to extend it. It's based on the HEROES Act, which is a COVID-based relief plan through June 30th. And he has the ability to do that. But as you say, as the COVID pandemic subsides, there will no doubt be challenges that say this is no longer tied to COVID. You are just trying to use this as debt relief permanently. So at some point, I imagine there will be a challenge even to that. But June makes some sense to me. That's the end of the Supreme Court's term. And so by the end of June, we should know the outcome of these two cases. And so that would give the Biden administration an opportunity to assess its options going forward.
Yeah, a lot of.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot just because of the fact of the matter that, yes, two cases under Biden's student loan debt relief program will be seen and heard by the current Supreme Court. Yes, the conservative-leaning Supreme Court is going to listen to two of these cases. Now, here's the most dangerous thing about it. The most dangerous thing about it is that the Supreme Court does have the ability to strike down this plan, which will affect millions of Americans that have student loan debt. And we can go back and forth over this as far as, is it right? Should you be done? These people take loans. We've been down this road before about that. And if you want to know my opinions of it, then you can go back to my previous podcast. You can see what I thought about this and what should have been done. Because to sum it up, Biden does have the ability to cancel student loan debt. He has the ability. There is nothing in the Constitution that prevents the president from doing it. And because there's nothing, and I say this very succinctly, nothing in the Constitution that prevents the president from saying, I'm canceling all student loan debt. There's nothing in the Constitution about it. That is the only entire reason why a lot of people were telling the president, including some of his cabinet at one time, you have the ability to cancel the entire debt, which is, I think, is somewhere over $1.7 trillion by now, where you're going to have a lot of Republicans who, as one voice, the one time they actually want to say no among the many things, they're saying that, no, we shouldn't cancel student loan debt because they're fighting on behalf of the banks that have done these student loans, the banks that have done these private loans, these banks that are collecting billions of dollars on interest alone. Let me rephrase that. These banks are collecting interest. They're not collecting the principal of the loan. They're collecting interest. And anybody that doesn't know the credit game, let me just be honest with you. The credit game is simple. Your debt to income ratio can determine what type of life that you have. And if you have a mountain of student loan debt, it makes it very difficult for you to achieve the American dream of owning a house, owning a car, getting a job, because jobs check credit too. And if you have a lot of debt, especially in certain sectors of certain employment, they don't even give you a second look. They see you as a risk. So yes, student loan debt can be taken care of, and it is scary that it's being heard by a Supreme Court that may turn around and strike this down or just may tie this up for months. But all I can sit there and say is Biden can do the right thing and just say, look, in my last 2 years of my first term presidency, let me just do something nuts. I'm just going to just turn around and sit there and just cancel student loan debt. Oh, thanks, son. Appreciate that. But anyway, there's another story I wanted to get you guys as we're getting to a couple more stories before we get to our feel good segment. This one is a little different. I guess, it's different because of my opinion on this, but I guess this is good news also in some ways that for WNBA player Brittany Griner has been returned back to the U.S. following a prisoner exchange between the U.S. and Russia. Let's focus on the good parts. At least let's try to focus on the good parts.
WNBA star Brittany Griner's first days of freedom and her detention in a Russian penal colony as one of her Russian lawyers speaks exclusively to NBC News. NBC's Marissa Parra has that story.
It was just pure happiness.
Russian lawyer Maria Blagovolina can hardly contain her smile. Her client, Brittany Griner, is finally free.
How she survived this, because it was a huge challenge for her. And I think that she really did great.
Our first glimpses of her new life show her smiling on the plane with some of the very same people who got her there. Her wife, Sherelle, waiting for her at the airport. Griner's agent says this weekend her first move was a dunk. playing basketball for the first time in almost 10 months. It's a dramatic turn from the last time the Russian lawyer saw her client just 3 weeks ago.
These are penal colonies, these are jails, and the conditions are harsh.
Soon after, Griner would cut off her signature locks out of survival in the Russian winter. They kept freezing when she'd shower.
Because it's cold and you can't properly dry the hair.
But as the basketball star prepared to be there for the long haul, Lagavolina says her friendliness went a long way, even at the penal colony.
So a lot of people want really to help her.
Her lawyer says Griner always remained hopeful for a homecoming.
I think everybody's happy. It's kind of, happy end just before the Christmas. So it's unbelievable.
On the heels of their success with Griner, the Biden administration says they are continuing to negotiate for the release of Paul Whelan from Russian detention, with ongoing strategy meetings as recent as today.
Okay, so how do we focus on this? It is great that Brittany Griner has been returned home. It is great that she can resume her life. She may never go back to Russia again, and I, for one, don't blame her. But there has been a lot of back and forth on social media, and myself included, where I would be remiss that keep in mind that Brittany Griner was caught with contraband, if I can find the words. She was caught with contraband at a Russian airport. She had hash oil and marijuana. And for all those that don't know, there's a reason why when you're traveling to other countries, to be aware of the laws and the laws of the land that you're going to. Because for the simple fact of the matter is, you can get hemmed up in the wrong way, and you being American does not save you. I can tell you that off the bat. You try to go to London, you try to go to Thailand, you try to go to Korea, you try to go to China, Australia. A lot of these places have very, very, very strict rules on what you bring in or what you try to take out. And if you break those rules, it is severe penalty. Now, was it cruel and unusual punishment for weed? Yes. But it's Russia, which is the same reason why I tell a lot of people is like, people don't understand. We're still at war we're still in conflict with Russia. Russia is still invading Ukraine, or is trying to invade Ukraine to take it over forcefully. U.S. forces are assisting along with NATO with the Ukraine against Russia, and folks are still traveling to it. That alone should be a red flag not to travel to a country that the U.S. has got beef with. Now, again, I am happy she's home. I am happy she's safe. But let's be honest, it wasn't like she was being targeted. Was she a political pawn? Absolutely. Because according to Russia, they got back an arms dealer who may or may not have given the source material to the movie Lord of War. May or may not. We cannot say for certain. But the fact that a prisoner exchange happened and that Griner was released, yeah, we had to give up an arms dealer to get her back. And now, like I said before, it's hard to be. I'm again. That's why I say it's hard to be happy, because I am happy she's safe. I'm happy she's home. Happy that her wife is, a family is reunited. That's all well and good. We just shouldn't forget that the fact of the matter was she was in there of her own volition. That's all. That's the one thing I think a lot of people just sometimes seem to miss or just ignore. It's like, so what? She had weed. No, you got to understand that this was in another country, and your American citizenship does not go with you when you're at these other countries. If anything, it works against you in some countries. That's all I'm saying. Be smart. Be aware of where you go. You will save yourself a bunch of headaches in the long run. But our last story before we get to our feel good segment, guys. See, this is the reason why every time I bring up CRT, you can hear the sphincters just snap up, because certain Mayo people out there hear CRT and think, oh, my child will never learn that. I don't want them to be ashamed of their race or what their ancestors did. But it's amazing that as much as CRT was put up against, even though it wasn't taught anywhere, but laws were put against it, teachers were sworn down not to teach it. Our current crop of teachers can't seem to respect current religions, especially this one teacher who no longer has a job because she swears up and down Muslims who are exercising their faith are practicing witchcraft. Yes, I said it, and I wish I could make this up.
إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون لا يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله أحكم الحاكمين الله أكبر. Hold on, this is my office. You have to do all this thing. Hey, it's just hey. I don't know what's going on here. I believe in Jesus, so I'm interrupting the flow. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on here. And why are you in my office?
Messed up, isn't it? That all they were doing, they literally and figuratively were practicing their religion. So yes, that teacher was fired because as rightly they should be. Because number one, respect all religions, okay? Muslims, in my mind, are probably the most devout religious people out there. How many times they pray a day? And when it's time for them, they usually find a nice quiet place. They find a nice quiet place. They will say their prayer and they'll be about their day. That's all they want to do. So even when I was working with Muslims and I would see them, they would usually have an office or a very nice area where they can go into and they can pray. We know it. We know what's going on. So what do? We respect it. If something was going down, I care if the building was on fire, would be the only time we ever stop them. But anything else, we honor their religious practice is what we do. Because it's not only is it decent, it's humane. Because it is amazing when you hear a teacher go, well, I believe in Jesus. Y'all ain't here practicing magic. Oh, that what makes it worse is a black woman. That's what makes it worse. You could tell it was a black person in the video. So I'm just like, really? I'm like, you see these kids, you see them praying, and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, what y'all doing here? Y'all must be practicing magic. I believe in Jesus. See, this is why I can't stand ignorant religious folks. I can't. Because, number one, there are hundreds of religions out there. Hundreds. If not close to 1,000 different types of religions variations. That being said, if you're asking for the respect, because trust and believe, there are Christians out there right now, especially on Fox News, the war on Christmas. We can't say Merry Christmas anymore because there's other religions, so we say Happy Holidays. Yes, Happy Holidays encompasses it all. Because you don't want to sit there and say Happy Hanukkah to a person that celebrates Kwanzaa. You don't want to go to a person that celebrates you don't want to say Happy Kwanzaa to a person that celebrates paganism. So what do? Blanket statement. Happy Holidays. The safest non-PC statement that you can say and still be able to greet everybody in the way you want to greet them. Cool. But you get individuals like that who can't even respect a child who's just exercising their freedom of religion, and you decide to not only interrupt them, but step through them. I'm sorry, you don't deserve to be an educator, in my opinion. You deserve to be something. You honestly deserve every bit of karma that comes to you. Because, number one, I'm already peeved that's a black person doing this. Number two, It's amazing the lack of respect for someone else's religion. So no, don't feel bad about the situation at all, lady. Hopefully, Jesus will get you another job. Good luck with that. But we're going to go, guys, move on to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack We Got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it is Wednesday, hump day. Tomorrow being Friday, which is Thursday, we want to leave you guys out some good vibes. And actually got a kind of a story and a half. I did want to post this very quick statement just because I'm not really a big stamp collector, but with this one coming out, it makes me want to actually collect stamps, because a very iconic civil rights individual, civil rights, I'm going to call him what he is, a civil rights hero, is being honored with his own U.S. postage stamp.
New honor for a man who was at the front lines of the civil rights movement. The Postal Service has announced a new stamp will bear the image of Georgia Congressman John Lewis. Lewis died from pancreatic cancer in 2020.
And I think that's cool. That, like I said before, I don't have a stamps collection, but if I did, that's what I would start with. Of course, for all of them, John Lewis is iconic civil rights / politician, marched for Dr. King, literally was the author of Getting in Good Trouble, never stopped fighting for rights of people, and definitely that man deserves his flowers and then some. So thought that was cool. Still waiting on my Harriet Tub at $20, because as soon as I get that's going into the time capsule. So I can sit there and say we got black people on money, but we got black people on stamps too. It's still pretty cool. The next story, guys, is about a woman that literally took a tragedy and used that as momentum to help other children. And again, I love to see, and I said, I know I'm being very partial about this, I just love to see black people take something that was tragedy and make it into something that is beautiful, that is moving, that will impact lives. And this woman with this organization is doing just that.
Is key when it comes to double dutch.
I like to do double dutch tricks, cartwheels, and push-ups.
The hardest part is just trying to get in the rope, because most people get scared of getting hit on the rope.
Here, inside this Jersey City community center, these kids are quite literally learning the ropes and a whole lot more.
It's more of a family. It's a safe zone.
Here in Jersey City, where we are from, it's tough on our streets. So if I can provide a place to keep them safe, just knowing that they're safe the times they're with me, I sleep well at night.
Kimberly Princella started the nonprofit Jump for Jerry a few years ago after her son was fatally hit by a car. Jerry was just 8. He loved double dutch. Now she's honoring him the best way she knows how.
We honor Jerry legacy by enabling children of different ages, different background, to build life skills, confidence, strong character, and to realize their potential as leaders.
A sport building confidence.
It's fun, and you get a lot of workout from it, and you should try it.
And a team hoping to inspire other kids to jump a little higher in life.
Try it, like express yourself and open up to new things. It's not that hard.
And I thought that was pretty cool, just because, number one, a parent, it's never easy to lose a child when you're a parent. But to take that tragedy and say, you know what, I'm going to apply this and help other kids. And it could be something simple. It could be sports. It could be chess. It could be computers, robotics, even double dutch. And don't knock double dutch, because number one, double dutch is a sport. The stuff that these kids can do, it just, I'll never do it because my knees ain't what they used to be. But anyway, just love to see, you just love to see it. I love to see, and like I said, I am very partial about this. I just love to see black people just thrive like that. Just saying. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Those that commented as well. Also, I do want to do some shameless promotions as usual. Shout out to my buddy Vaughn at BigVZA on all socials. Definitely check him out, especially on TikTok and on his YouTube page, as he usually has beats for sale. And what is this big BC thinking? But definitely check him out there. Of course, guys, my for most of my socials, I can be found at BlockBox447. Like and follow me there, as I usually post everything that I watch, that I play, and that I view, and some gym stuff, because I do a couple push-ups. Also, at the same time, guys, the banner that you see at the bottom, let me make that just a wee bit bigger. If you copy and paste that into your link, will take you to my link stream that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, off of this podcast. Like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think of it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Or just stories that you would like to know more of, and I will definitely do the investigating and come back with the facts. That's all I want to do. Beyond that, guys, I do want to sit there and say that number one, this is the time of the year where we have seen a lot of individuals unfortunately take their own lives. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Check on your people, check on your strong people, check on your loners, check on your folks, because guys, they're, as many people are trying to be strong and smiling and just being positive all the time, you don't know what someone is going through. So check on your people. If you do need assistance, the suicide prevention hotline is out there for you, 998. Definitely take advantage of those things, those services, and check on your people, because simply put, you are not alone. That it's like with the number of individuals we've seen take their lives recently, I just, check on your people. Just saying hi or hello, just like I said, you may save a life in the process. That being said, guys, last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply trying to give you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind, but provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better when we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black 4-star military general. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go by our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians with the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this. Peace.